Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, 2016, the primaries. A wild man comes out the forest. Pretty much no one knows who he is. But he has one singular talent. When he gets in front of a microphone, he says things that draws a crowd. He drew thousands upon thousands. And he got across a message of a hope, togetherness, this idea that this country can be a different place. It's this idea of poets of sorts, this thing of this merging of poets and politics. This is my vision of the country. This is my vision of what I think the country can be. I am imparting that vision to each of you as a better country. Yes, within my vision, each and every person is secure within their person. They have health care. They have education. They're not going into thousands and thousands of dollars in debt to get that education. We're not going into these interventionist foreign wars. We're going to have a fairer society. That person was Bernie Sanders. And that person was cheated in the Democratic primaries in order to let Hillary Clinton, the person who was inevitable, run in the general election as a Democratic nominee. Miss Inevitable promptly lost to a reality show host, showing that she wasn't inevitable at all. Now, the catch is not so much that she lost to the reality show host. It was something else. Within that primary, amongst all of the drama within the Democratic Party's primary, lingering over Hillary Clinton was a federal investigation, a federal indictment, an FBI federal indictment, a potential FBI federal indictment. She was under investigation. Was she going to be indicted? Now, this investigation stemmed from her use of an email server. Hillary Clinton put an email server in her basement, and she essentially used that particular server for her communications. Well, that's a problem. If you're working in government, your power in government, or government's power, comes from the consent of the governed. And coming from the consent of the governed, how can you give consent if you don't know what the government is doing? Meaning you need to have information about the behavior of the government, the data that the government makes and generates. It should be up for public scrutiny. For that, we have freedom of information requests. As FOIA requests hit the State Department, it came back that Hillary Clinton didn't have any because, like I just said, that information was in her basement. But right off the bat, you can see the problem. How can I know what the government is doing if Hillary Clinton has that information sitting in her basement in her own private server? That's a problem. The second part of that problem is, in her capacity as State Department, she deals with top secret information. Well, if that top secret information is sitting in her server, that information is vulnerable. If you're going to say that the United States cybersecurity systems are somewhat subpar, maybe they are, maybe they're not. Do you think her basement is better? Do you think her basement is a better place? Now, she was under an investigation. Comey, the FBI director at the time, was the person who was running the investigation. The person who was overall in charge of it, however, was Attorney General. The Attorney General, of course, is appointed by the President, who is Obama at the time. Tell me, be honest with me. Do you honestly believe that the Democratic Party can do an honest investigation of itself? Meaning, Obama appoints Hillary Clinton to the State Department. He appoints Loretta Lynch as Attorney General. Does Loretta Lynch know that Obama does not want Hillary Clinton indicted? He wants Hillary Clinton to be essentially to continue his legacy. Of course she knows that. Of course she knows that the person who Obama put up in the State Department is not somebody that Obama wants indicted. Does she have a vested interest in leaning on Comey then to try to pressure him to not do that indictment? Then of course that answer is yes. Even going so far as to say that Loretta Lynch may be working for Hillary Clinton as Attorney General, meaning she's probably going to keep her job if Hillary Clinton takes office. How much was Comey pushed? And can you say that's a fair investigation if you have the person who's overtly the last person to make the determination whether an investigation goes through being somewhat chosen by the same party? I mean, certainly that's a problem. You can't necessarily look, for whatever you want to think of Jeff Sessions, and I don't think much of him. He stepped aside and allowed a private investigation. He allowed a private investigation. That's the first point. Loretta Lynch, in her capacity of doing this, pressured Comey to talk about it in a particular way. Now, you have one of the campaigns running for office. Think of it as a bus driver in a competition to drive the bus. No one has a claim to the wheel of that, meaning no party has claim to the presidency. Just because the Democratic Party was saying it was her turn, doesn't in fact mean that it's her turn. She has to win it. The American public makes a vote, and whoever wins gets that office. It's problematic to have the levels of government itself to work in collusion with one of the parties. Donald Trump would not have been afforded the same luxury if Donald Trump was under investigation in the same way. Meaning, it's the government under a party showing favoritism to a member of that particular party. That is a problem. That is a problem. That is an immense problem. You've undermined democracy in some way. Just in doing that. Just in doing that. Because I'd wager that you wouldn't necessarily have a Trump presidency if Hillary Clinton was indicted. Now, for Comey to come out and say that, yes, she was guilty, but no, I didn't indict, that looks a little strange to me. That looks a little strange to a lot of people. Now, beyond looking a little strange to a lot of people, was he pressured? In an investigation, or in the Senate hearing, Comey came out and said he was uncomfortable that Loretta Lynch was pushing him to talk about the case in the same way or in the same style as Hillary Clinton, as the Clinton campaign. He also said that he felt that the integrity of the office was being besmirched. Now we find out that there's a meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, a secret meeting. Now, in this particular meeting, when she was asked, hey, wait a minute, you're the president of the United States, former president, is having a conversation with the Attorney General. The former president just so happens to be married to the woman who's running currently for president, and the woman who's just so happens currently under FBI investigation. An investigation that's headed up by the woman that Bill Clinton is meeting, Loretta Lynch. This is problematic. This is immensely problematic. Now when asked, hey, what did you two talk about? Because the elephant in the room is, you're talking to the person who you may be indicting his wife. Well, we didn't talk about much. We talked about his grandkids. We talked about travel. That's pretty much it. Wait a minute. I understand you didn't talk about much. Did you talk about the case? Did you talk about Bill Clinton's wife under investigation? For that matter, did Bill Clinton ask you, don't indict my wife? That would seem natural as natural can be for a husband to say, don't indict my wife. Did you have any conversation within that context? Her saying much, meaning, oh, we didn't talk about much, we just did so-and-so. That hides some information. That's a gray area. Conversation is not necessarily just about what you talk about. It's also about the things you don't talk about. Sometimes language is used to obfuscate those things. The problem here is, the question was asked, is there information pertaining to this meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch? The answer that came back originally was no, there's no information pertaining to this. We then find out there are 400 documents, 400, dealing with this particular interaction between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch. For somebody to not have had much to say in this regard, meaning Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, just not being this thick, decent conversation, just this vague conversation of we talked about our grandkids. Why were there 400 pages of that? And within there being 400 pages, why were so many of those pages redacted? I think that's a good question. I think that's a good question. At the very least, you can agree with me. This has a massive appearance of impropriety. And the idea that somebody lied saying that there was no information about it, and all of a sudden you found all of this information about it, that also looks kind of problematic. She was briefed. The Justice Department was aware, acutely aware, that she was going to be asked questions on this front and sought to prepare her for the questions that she was going to get on this front. Look, I think it's massively disingenuous to believe that the only thing they talked about was their grandkids. So, whatever these documents are saying under the redactions is less important than why are you meeting with the person who had this particular case going on. For Comey to say that yes, we had the information saying that she was guilty, no, we didn't necessarily want to go after her on the case, is problematic, man. There's a rumor that a case has been opened up against Hillary Clinton on the email thing. I don't know if it's true. It's just a rumor. We'll keep an eye on it. I'll leave it at that. Lynch should be subpoenaed. Comey should be subpoenaed. And questions should be put to them. I'd even make an argument that Bill Clinton should be subpoenaed. Because, be honest, this looks bad. Even if you're a Democratic operative, certainly, this looks bad. This looks bad. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. And of course, you can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.